Power.
Thank you, and you're welcome, Minister. I welcome the bill that's before us today. It's hard to believe, I suppose, in this day and age in 2013 that thousands of people are trafficked across the European Union. But the figures that were published by the European Commission show that between 2008 and 2010, nearly 24,000 people trafficked across the EU states. So this bill is an important part of a coordinated European response to that. It's important on issues like this that there is, across the European Union, that there's no safe haven for people involved in these kind of crimes, and that there's real cross-border cooperation. I think this is a good example of that. I have to say, I think we should opt in more to more of the work that's done on the justice and home affairs aspect of the EU. We've been quite slow in the past in doing so, but certainly criminals will exploit any gap and any area that they see as a soft option. So I think it's very, very important right across the 27 EU states that we make sure that we have that we all work together and have the strongest possible cross-border cooperation on these issues. I know that the legislation, as you rightly pointed out, really builds on the 2008 Act. It's just to bring us up to standard in terms of the EU directive that has to be transposed by the end of this month. So it's just adding, I suppose, to the existing situation and making improvements like broadening the definition of trafficking and things like that you've mentioned. I do have a number of concerns with it, issues that have been raised with me by the Immigration Council, so I'd like to seek further clarification on those from you. It's unclear in the legislation and more generally what the position is with regard to legal assistance for victims right across the spectrum. So from that from the first time that they are actually accessed by services, or that we realise that somebody has possibly been trafficked, right through the process. I know there are supports during criminal proceedings, but one of the issues that the Immigrant Council is concerned about is that there would be support and assistance after criminal proceedings as well. And I think that's very important. You're talking about particularly vulnerable people here, and I think it's very important that they're supported the whole way through, and indeed that they get the support services that they need after cases have been brought, that they're not just seen as a witness in a criminal trial, but they're actually seen as an individual who's had a horrific experience and needs every possible support to get their lives back on track. It's also important as well to make sure that we have the best possible accommodation, and again in a supportive environment for people who are dealing with these issues. And that's one of the things that's stressed in the directive as well, is about having appropriate and safe accommodation. I have to say I would have concerns about the system of direct provision, as we've myself, Senator O'Clougherty and Senator Van Turnout were earlier on at a briefing in here. We've been doing some work through a Seanad ad hoc group on direct provision. I know it was in the headlines again this week with former Justice Catherine McGuinness speaking out about it. I do think it's absolutely horrific. I think the situation that people are living in, particularly children, is absolutely unacceptable in this day and age. And I think we have to make sure as well that when you're dealing with vulnerable people who have been trafficked into the country, that we make sure that they're in proper accommodation as well, and that they're not left somewhere where they're exposed to other risks or where they're not getting the kind of supports that they need. One of the other issues that the Immigrant Council have raised is the need to ensure that all victims of trafficking have access to legal representation. I understand that they're concerned that there may be a difficult legal age, that not everybody might qualify for legal aid. That's a need. Maybe perhaps you could clarify that. The other thing that they've raised as a significant concern is about the need to ensure proper protocols across different government departments when we're dealing with people who have been trafficked. They said at currently what happens is that somebody can give their account to the Gardaí, and then they have to go recount that to other agencies, say the Refugee Application Commissioner, if they go to the Refugee Appeals Tribunal, that they're concerned that people have to keep going through traumatic experience over and over. And I think it's important to make sure that we try and minimise as much as possible multiple delivery of personal accounts. And then the other thing, I suppose, in a more general sense about what the bill is talking about, is that we need to make sure that this is one directive. I understand that there are other directives that we haven't opted into in this area that are directly related. And the directive actually states, it refers to two others, Directive 2004-81 EC and Directive 2009-52 EC. and it urges member states to adopt an integrated, holistic and human rights approach to the fight against trafficking. So I think it's very important that we don't just selectively opt into some directives in this area, but that we actually take part in the whole picture and make sure that we're doing everything we can to have an integrated approach. But I think when we're talking about this issue, and I welcome the bill, and it's important that we're doing this, but at the end of the day, the vast majority of human trafficking across the EU happens for sexual exploitation. The EU figures are that 80% of those who are trafficked are women and girls, and 62% of those trafficked are for sexual exploitation. So I know work is being done, and that the department is looking at future law in relation to prostitution. I have to say that personally I feel very strongly that we have to criminalise the purchasers of sex. I feel sorry for women who were involved. Statistics show that they typically are people who got involved in prostitution in their mid-teens. They've had horrific experiences. There's huge levels of drug misuse and things like that. It's not the glamorised face that's put on the profession by people who are making millions from the exploitation of women and of girls. And I think that has to be part of the picture. It's important that we bring through legislation like this and we cooperate on a European level to catch those involved. And to make sure they're prosecuted, and our record in this country is dreadful on prosecution. I think that has to be part of this as well. We need to have effective services to actually catch people and make sure they're brought through the courts, because you can have all the legal framework that you like, but at the end of the day, if people don't feel that they're going to be caught, then they're able to just continue their work uninhibited and understand that we've won the worst rights for prosecution today. So I think that's very important. But at the end of the day, it's all very well to have services after the fact. We need to make sure that we deal with why human trafficking happens in the first place, and that's because there's a demand for sex. And we need to do that. And I think I just want to send that message to you again today to urge you to push ahead with that. I know that it's gone off. Our party sent in a submission as part of the public consultation process from our own justice spokesperson on behalf of our parliamentary party, saying that we support moving towards the Swedish approach. We think it's the right way to go. We also want to make sure, of course, that any concerns about driving women underground or things like that are dealt with. That, of course, has to be part of the process. We have to make sure that we do this as smart as we possibly can. But the Swedish approach seems to be what works best. We've had prosecutors over from there over the last year as well, briefing members, briefing the Gardaí, and listened very carefully to what they had to say. So I know that the public consultation process has been done. It's going to go back to the committee, but I just want to take this opportunity again to urge you to look at that, because at the end of the day, that's the bigger picture of what we're talking about today. Because the process that we're talking about here will only assist the minority of victims, really, who actually get out, who are spotted by services in a position then to be able to be given support and hopefully helped onto a better life. But it's only when we actually have proper procedures, proper laws and proper prosecution services and supports to actually crack down on prostitution in the first place, given that sexual exploitation is most of the reason for trafficking, that we'll actually really have helped those who badly need it from us. So I just wanted to take the chance to raise that with you again today.